China. This was
China.
the big thing
The
where it was like,
second, the second world's economy, basically like the second strongest economy besides the U.S.
so they've been doing QE. Like we should have done it in order with the macro, where they're doing quantitative easing. And what happens is when you do quantitative easing, you basically are pumping money and they lowered interest rates. In the United States, they've been increasing interest rates because what they want to do is basically choke consumers and cut off the lines of credit. So when you do quantitative easing, you lower the rates and then give more money so that people invest more. And then a lot of this goes into the housing market. So in China, there are a lot of developers that took out lots of loans to be able to build property. Now, they were building property and then they were also getting in deposits from investors like retail investors saying, hey, we're going to build some condos. Would you like to buy a condo and put down a deposit? And then you'll be able to rent it out and make money off of it. So it's very similar to the Big Short, where it's like apparently there are some Chinese people with four, five, six apartments that will never ever be filled.
Never see them being built.
And some of them might not even be built exactly. And so the real estate developers at this moment uh, don't have the money coming in because the people that were investing, they say, hey, there's zero COVID for China and I'm not working anymore. So I can't pay. I gave you a deposit of like $20,000, but I want to cancel it out. Can I get my money back or I'm just not going to pay you anymore? And the developers are like, dude, you need to keep paying us. Like, we haven't even built this house and like, we need the money to keep building. And then the guy is like, yo, my job is dead. Like,
Can't pay you.
I can't pay you. And now what the government did was that they were trying to stimulate the economy, even though they're trying to do zero COVID. And so there are people in China that were at the banks saying, can I take out my deposits? And the banks lent the money to the developers that are no longer getting payments from their investors. And they were so leveraged. The developers were getting money from people for houses that they hadn't even built yet. And now those people, not only are they not paying, but they want their money back, but the developers don't have any money. And now the banks don't have any money. And it's the same bank that the people that were investing were saying, hey, can I get my savings out? And now the developers are not paying the money back.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah. And now the government did what's called lowering the capital requirements. So typically a bank needs to have 1%, 5% of the actual money that they owe. So they get money from the depositors and then they lend it out and then they get arbitrage. If I lend out money to people that have no money and then the requirements for me holding the money, so say Brian gives me $10. I lend out $1,000 and the guy is not paying me back. And Brian's like, I want my $10 back. And I was like, dude, I have no dollars.
Yeah, I gave it all away.
I lent it to the person and he was like, who did you lend it to? And I was like,
You're the bank.
Brian, I lent it to the dude you were trying to invest with.
It's like a
Brian,
triangle.
yeah, it's a triangle. And then they've been trying to juice the economy. They've lowered the interest rates so that you can lend more money to the banks. The banks are irresponsibly lending it out to the private developers, and the retail people are lending it to the developers and also depositing at the banks. And now there's no money left in the banks.
So China's
All the loans are going faulty. It's going to be a Lehman Brothers. It appears to be a Lehman Brothers.
in
Also,
China.
because it's all triggered by the fact that zero COVID policy, the Chinese government wants to
No
assert,
one's working, so how can they pay back loans?
no, but they want to show that they're in power. So they will say, hey, you can't go outside because we're going to take care of you and we're going to make sure you don't die of COVID. So they're still on lockdowns. And I mean, yeah, it gets way too political now with China and global politics and coronavirus policies. But this contagion, the other thing that I wanted to touch on with macro is that